Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs, the blue is the blue. We cover it all here on Command Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So Ron Rivera confirmed what we already knew. Carson Wentz broke his ring finger on his throwing hand, required surgery, had that surgery yesterday. He's still in L.A. right now, rehabbing, and they want to kind of take a look and see what the prognosis is moving forward to determine whether if they should put him on IR or not. He's going to miss probably 4 games, so IR makes a ton of sense if you want to free up a roster spot, not tied up with a guy that's not going to play for the next month. But it could be longer. It could be longer for Carson Wentz. So in the meantime, Rivera, did the thing that he needed to do, even though he didn't need to do it. He had to because there were some crazies out there talking about putting in Sam Howell. So he announced today that they were moving forward with Taylor Heinicke as the starter and that Sam Howell would be his backup quarterback. They did make a corresponding move. We'll talk about all those things a little bit later on in the show. But what I really want to focus on here is Taylor Heinicke. Now, we spoke about this briefly yesterday. I didn't want to dive too deep into it yesterday because I knew I was going to come back and really comb over it again today. So I didn't want to belabor the point, but Heinicke's going to get the start. We're 2-4 on the season. And, there's this prevailing thought that, Heinicke's going to either, and you're on either one side or the other side of the fence. I don't know of too many people that are straddling the fence here. Either you were in favor of Heinicke getting another opportunity. You didn't love the trade for Carson Wentz. You wanted Heinicke to get the opportunity from the jump. If we couldn't get one of these big name quarterbacks, just turn the ball back over to Taylor Heinicke and let's see what he can do with an improved cast of characters and players around him. More receiver depth and talent, more tight end depth and talent. The running back position continues to get better. And now you look at all of these things, coming together, another year in the offense under Scott Turner, maybe things could be better. There was a lot of people that felt that way and just give Heinicke another opportunity. Then there were those like myself that felt like, look, this guy is the quintessential NFL backup quarterback. You need him for a 4-week stretch. He can get the job done. He's the man for the job. He'll come in, he'll steady the offense, he'll move the football, he'll score some points. It'll be exciting no matter what, whether it's, him turning the football over or him going out there running around making plays. It's going to be exciting. But he's a backup quarterback in this league. He's shown us that already. And so don't really need to see it again, unless we have to. But he's here now. Offense has been really anemic. Let's see what he's got. There's a lot of people out there that also think he stinks. This isn't going to help this team at all. Just put Sam Howell in. What are we doing? Why are we spinning our wheels in place? This is a waste of time. And so I want to ask you guys, what is it that you think we're going to get during this bare minimum 4-week stretch? I think it's going to be longer because I think he's going to ultimately come in, play well enough to the point where they don't even think about going back to Carson now. Right now, I think how Washington's moving and Ron Rivera's mindset is, let's just, go with Heinicke, see where this goes. But when Carson's ready and he's healthy, it's his job. I think that's the mindset that they're going into this whole, situation with. I think by the time we get to the end of this, whether it's 4 weeks, 5 weeks, I think it's going to be closer to 6 than it is 4, honestly speaking. Watching Dak Prescott, come back from his ordeal with the, fractured thumb and having to be able to grip the football and having that be the main source of, the problem. I assume that it's going to be something similar. Now, it's a little bit different when it's your ring finger versus your thumb. The thumb is what allows you to grip the football. His is not a thumb. It's a ring finger. So I'm assuming that maybe there won't be as big of a grip issue. But then again, I can't say. I'm no doctor and I didn't sleep at a Holiday Inn. But I still think it's going to be closer to the 6 weeks than it is the 4 weeks. But whatever the case may be, if Heinicke goes 4-1 in that stretch, say it's 5 games, he goes 4-1. And let's say the one game that he loses is at Indy, right? But he leads you to a victory over Green Bay, Minnesota, and Philadelphia, and Houston, but he loses to the Indianapolis Colts on the road. And you go 4-1 in that stretch. Are you really looking to turn the reins back over to Carson Wentz? After he turned the reins over to Taylor Heinicke at 2-4, and Heinicke's got this team playing at a 6-5, clip. Are you really going to turn it back over to him and say, hey, all right, Heinicke, really appreciate what you've done for us. Got to go back to the bench now and give it to the guy that had a losing record before he got injured? I don't really see that transpiring, but we'll see what happens. Before we even get to that point, we're a long way away from having that conversation because a whole nother conversation could be spawned. We could be totally awful, and Heinicke could do the inverse of 4-1 and go 1-4, and this thing could be off the rails by the time Carson's ready to come back. Are you really going to stick Carson Wentz back in there? What is the purpose behind that? Are you looking to give away a second-round pick, or do you just go to Sam Howell? And I do think internally they've had some of those discussions because Ron talked about, where Sam Howell is in his progression. They like what they've seen from him. And that the fact that they're making him the backup quarterback tells you all that you need to know. Now, they could feel like he's not ready, but they don't have a choice. They did make a move, like I said, corresponding to the quarterback position. We'll talk about that in a second. But I think just the fact that he's one snap away from playing is Sam Howell. Keep that in mind. He's one snap away from getting in the game. Tells you that they feel pretty confident that if he has to go in the game, he's not going to throw up all over himself. So there is that. That said, what Taylor Heinicke do you think we're going to get? Are we about to embark on another TLH saga? Is this going to be ultra, 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 ultra? Or is this going to be zero alcohol content Heinicke? Is this 0% Heinicke? As in 0% alcoholic content? Or is it Heine Ultra? Which one are we going to get? I was going to save my answer. Let you guys answer it because I don't want to skew your answer in one direction or another. But you guys have brains. You can think for yourself. Because I'm going to forget to tell you if I don't tell you now. I'll tell you, well, yeah, I'll come back and I'll tell you on Wednesday or Thursday, and I'll forget. Totally forget. So I'll tell you right now what I think. I think it's going to be a mixture of both. That's why he's a backup quarterback. He's going to give you those moments where you say, oh my God, this is what we could have had if he started the first, from the first game of the season. We'd be much better. And you're going to be talking yourself into that nonsense of look what we could have been doing. It could be this first game against Green Bay for all we know. He goes out there, shreds the Packers, throws for 297 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. We scored 27 points, win the ball game 27-23, and you're thinking to yourself, look at this dude, man. He runs around, scrambles for 66 yards during the course of the game, plays well, really well. And you're like, man, this guy here, man. And then the following week on the road at Indy, he soils himself. Throws 2 picks, sacked 5 times, fumbles an additional time, turns it over a total of 3 times. We lose the game going away, 27-13, and it's back to where we started at square one. I think it's going to be a mixture of the two. You're going to get your moments where it's Heine Ultra and you're on the bandwagon and you're sipping that Heine Ultra and you're feeling good. You're going to the bathroom 15 times in the span of 10 minutes and you're like, this is great. All right. And then you're going to have those times where you're like, what the hell is this? I don't even feel a buzz. What is this? And then you realize, oh shit, this is the zero alcohol Heine. I don't want this. Well, it's too late. You've already consumed some. I think we're going to get a mixture of both. That's why he's a backup quarterback in this league. I hope I'm wrong and he goes out and he absolutely kills it. That's what I'm rooting for. I wanted this guy to take over the job and be the guy and be the answer. There were so many reasons as to why, but we know that there are limitations to his game. But I also think, and I said this yesterday, and they're going to continue to die on this hill until he proves me wrong. Till he proves otherwise, that the weaknesses that he has and the limitations that we've seen from him are going to be outweighed by the strengths that he brings to the table, meaning command of the offense, athleticism, getting the football to these playmakers, timing and rhythm of the offense. I think those things will outweigh the lack of, a strong arm, the, size factor, can't see over the line, things of that nature, batted balls, all of that good stuff. And some of the poor decision making, throwing into areas where your arm just doesn't allow you to fit that football into that space, things of that nature. That mental toughness that he has that we, question with Carson Wentz from time to time, that competitiveness. Sometimes you can squeeze too tight that it becomes counterproductive. We've seen that from Heinicke where, the team gets down a bit or he makes a mistake and he tries to make up for that mistake in one play. You're down 14 and he's trying to get a 14-point play, except that doesn't exist. And now he throws an interception, trying to force it and make something happen like he's back at ODU. And so there's that. But I think his ability to keep this offense on schedule rather, which will allow us, I think, to convert more third downs. His ability to go through the progressions. There have been guys open this season and Wentz simply has not gone through his progressions fast enough. And I think his ability to use his legs. There have been opportunities for legs to be used and plays to be extended and things to happen positively for this team. And our quarterback just simply refuses to run. The offensive line hasn't been its greatest this year. Guy with some mobility would definitely help this offensive line. So, and this offense as a whole, I'm excited to see how that looks and how that works. There'll be some ups, there'll be some downs, but we were expecting that with Carson Wentz anyway. So it's not that big of a difference for me. You know what I mean? Like, there's not this significant drop off. And I think that's what frustrates some people as to why we gave up, 2 draft picks and $28 million in cap space, forcing us to release some guys that were here that could have been helping us right now in this season. A lot of people are frustrated because why do we give that stuff up again if there's not that big of a difference between Wentz and Heinicke? Because there really isn't. The biggest glaring difference, and it's really just a trade-off. One guy's got a cannon for an arm, and the other's got mobility and legs. That's the biggest difference between the two. Heinicke knows the offense, Wentz quite doesn't. But if the offensive line wasn't in shambles early in the season and he was actually protected, I don't think we would have been having some of the issues that we've been having with Carson Wentz. But clearly, that was an issue. The offensive line was compromised, and I think his play was compromised because of it. And I think a guy like Taylor Heinicke alleviates some of that. His ability to get up in the pocket, run, scramble, pick up some yards with his legs when things aren't there initially is going to change the way defenses can come after us. It was funny watching some of these teams load up the blitz against us, knowing that Wentz wasn't going to run anywhere and he wasn't going to get rid of the football fast enough. It was comical on Thursday night watching the Bears early in that ball game just say, all right, we're coming. What are you going to do about it? And Wentz's answer was nothing. I'm going to take this sack. It'll be interesting to see if teams still try to attack us that way. With Heinicke, who knows the offense better, can get rid of the football faster. And, oh, by the way, if you come after him and you don't get there immediately and there's a crease, you could pay for that dearly. So, what says you? Heinicke Ultra or 0% alcoholic content? What's coming from Taylor Heinicke? In a bare minimum of 4 starts, I think maybe 5. And it could extend to the rest of the season. I've already said, I'm going out. My bold prediction is that we don't see Carson Wentz again here in Washington. And I'll take it a step further. If it doesn't work here for Wentz, we've already said this, his career could be over. We'll see. Right now, it doesn't sound like that's the plan. The plan is Heinicke gives you his 4 starts. As soon as Wentz is healthy, he gets back out on the football field. That's Listening to Rivera, that's the plan right now. But plans change. In this league, it's fluid. When you don't have a definitive guy, which we don't here in Washington, all bets are off. You see what's going on in New Orleans. I talked about it yesterday. There's a conversation that's starting in New England now with Bailey Zappi. All right. They've already started Zappy Hour, okay, as a thing. So, Mac Jones is busting his ass trying to get back from that high ankle sprain because his job is in jeopardy. It really probably isn't. But if this guy keeps playing the way that he's playing, maybe it is. And as I've mentioned, it's not necessarily when he's healthy that his job is in jeopardy. Is if he comes back and he doesn't play well. That's when you'll start to hear those whispers turn into, yelling and real noise. It'll get louder and louder and louder. I think the same thing can be said about here in Washington. Right now, I don't think there's enough of a consensus, nor is there enough from Heinicke. We've seen enough. We know enough. I think they know enough, which is why they made it a effort, like a big deal this offseason, why they made a concerted effort to find and upgrade the quarterback position. You know how they feel about Heinicke. They know that he's not the answer. But what if he is this year? I think he is the right man for the job for this team this year. I said the same thing about Wentz. I don't think the long-term solution for this team at quarterback is on the roster, and that includes Sam Howell. And I know that's not a fair statement to make, but I don't think he's the answer either. But at least there's an unknown factor with Sam Howell. Seeing Heinicke for a full season, feel pretty confident knowing what he brings to the table. Seeing Wentz for 5, 6, 7 years in this league, know what he is. And so we pretty much know what these two quarterbacks are. And I think the offensive line's inability to protect really shined a light on some of the negatives that everyone was talking about with Carson Wentz. And unfortunately, I was hoping that those things wouldn't rear their ugly head here because we would protect him and give him an opportunity to be the Carson Wentz of old. But clearly, the athleticism, the mobility, the playmaking off schedule, all of that shit is gone from Carson Wentz, which is one of the things that made me excited that we were getting our hands on him, was the ability to make things happen off schedule, multiple platforms. We haven't seen any of that this year. None of it, actually. So, yeah. Heinicke's going to get an opportunity. Let's see what he does with it. I'm actually excited to see what he does. Maybe that excitement will turn to despair very quickly and disappointment. But we'll see. I'm excited to start. What says you? In other news, Ron Rivera stepped to the podium today. First day back for the players. And he said quite a few things that I thought were pertinent. Obviously, a lot of the conversation surrounded the quarterback position, in particular Wentz and then Heinicke. And then the conversation even shifted a bit to Sam Howell. And so let's address that first. Then we'll talk about some of the injured players. We had a lot of guys come out of the game injured. Sounds like right now, a lot of those guys had an opportunity to get the treatment that they needed. Also had some well-needed time off. And we'll really be able to assess all of those guys tomorrow when the injury report comes out. But then there's the conversation surrounding the guys that didn't play. Logan Thomas, Jahan Dotson, Chase Young, all of those guys being evaluated, workload being given to them. We'll talk about that here in a second. Let's first address the quarterback position. So I've already talked about Carson Wentz. He's done for the next 4 to 6 weeks. They're mulling over whether to put him on IR or not. That's the next decision that they have to make. In the meantime, Taylor Heinicke elevated the starter. Sam Howell, who's been inactive pretty much the entire season, now elevated to backup quarterback. Washington releases defensive tackle Donovan Jeter to make space on the practice squad for former Georgia quarterback Jake Fromm. So he stinks, by the way. So if we get to Jake Fromm, our season has gone as poorly as it could have gone. Like, the worst possible scenario is Jake Fromm sees the field in any capacity. I don't think he will, but he's around now. That's the emergency quarterback on the roster. So he talked about, Heinicke and what he brings to the table and how the team rallies around Taylor Heinicke. And look, he talked about the underdog narrative and how, every time Heinicke's gotten an opportunity, he's done some really good things and they respect what he brings to the table. I think the players know that Heinicke gives them a chance. Above all else, I think there are probably guys in the locker room that would rather roll with Taylor Heinicke. After seeing Wentz and what he's done the first 6 weeks of the season, I'm pretty sure there's some guys that rather roll with Taylor Heinicke and just say, hey, let's see what we can get done. I know there are some receivers that probably love the opportunity that he presents with the deep ball. But in terms of, and look, one of the things I can't stand with Heinicke is he gets receivers lit up. We saw Terry get a concussion messing around with him last year. I was in the preseason game. How do you think that Cam Sims got the concussion? Heinicke got him lit up. And there's a lot of times where Heinicke will throw a ball, not really caring for the well-being of the receiver. And if, as a receiver, you're trusting that your quarterback is going to put you in a position that you can protect yourself. He's not going to expose you to a big shot. But that's not the case with Heinicke. Heinicke will get you lit the hell up, okay? Get your bell rung. And it makes it even worse because the arm strength isn't there. So if the ball would have gotten there in a timely manner, you'd be able to protect yourself a little bit better. But because it's not getting there with a ton of zip and he's throwing into tight windows, you're probably going to get your block knocked off. And we've seen that from him. In the preseason this year, we saw it at least 3 different times where you're like, bro, come on, what you doing? And then, of course, we've seen it, over the lifespan of him starting. So I know that they're probably not as excited about that, but guys don't really worry about that stuff. You don't go into games thinking you're going to get lit up. You want an opportunity, and Heinicke's going to give them that. He talked about Sam Howell, and there's a gap, okay, just so you guys know. And Ron's like, yeah, like anybody that's thinking Sam Howell's going to, leapfrog Taylor Heinicke. Heinicke gives us the best chance to win right now. We like where Sam Howell is in his development. And we think this guy is doing some good things, but it's also young. It's a very young season here, and he's not ready to come in here and give a team that's still playing competitive football a chance to win at a level that we think is necessary, for where we are in our season. So Sam Howell isn't even in the discussion right now in terms of starting. Now, again, I've said this already. I'll say it again. He's one snap away. He's one snap away from being in the game. And I know that's what probably 80% of the fan base wants is to see Sam Howell at this point, to figure out if we've got a guy or do we need to get one in next year's draft. Personally, whether we see Sam Howell or not, because whenever we see Sam Howell, I don't think it's going to be a large enough sample size to be able to determine whether, he's the guy or not. If you're in a position to draft a quarterback next year, you got to draft a quarterback. I don't even think that's up for debate. If you're in a position to draft a quarterback and it's one that you like, you have to take him in next year's draft, whether you feel good about Sam Howell or not. I'd rather be the San Diego Chargers with Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers than to be where we were after Dwayne Haskins because we didn't take a quarterback. So that's my stance on that. But we'll see what they decide to do. I think at some point we're going to see him this year, more likely than not. If I'm keeping it a buck, my optimism wants to say, no, we'll be in this thing to the very bitter end, whether we make the playoffs or not, still up for, I've talked about how bad the NFC is overall. Like, we're nowhere near out of this thing. I mean, literally, we could look up, and it's too early to be talking about the playoffs because there's so much football. There's still, 11 whole games to play this season, right? I said that right. So it's not even worth discussing right now, but just looking around the conference, it's a free-for-all. Anybody's got a chance to make some noise and get in there. And so the fact that so many people have called, said the season's over, that's crazy. Had we lost to Chicago, yeah, you could make that statement. Even though this shit is still wide open, at 1-5, the season's dead. You've dug yourself too deep of a hole. But at 2-4, you're right there where you need to be. There are a ton of 2-4, 3-3 teams in this conference. We're right in the mix. We're right around where everyone else is. One loss from Atlanta, one loss from Seattle, and they're 3-4. One win by us, and we're 3-4. Hey, how you guys doing? We're all neighbors. Same with Arizona. They're 2-4. One win, they're 3-4. Just like that. Saints are 2-4, one win. They play the Cardinals on Thursday. Somebody's going to be 3-4 after that game. All right? The Rams are 3-3. One loss by the Rams, and they're sitting there at 3-4, just like us if we win against the Green Bay Packers. Again, another team, 3-3. We could both leave that game at 3-4. Like I said, this thing is wide ass open. So it's not Sam Howell time yet. And Ron pretty much said that. But he's like, I like where this kid is. I like his development. And, if he has to go in the game, we feel confident he can go in there and he won't throw up all over himself. That's good to know. Ron talked about some of the injured players, specifically Jahan Dotson, Logan Thomas, and he even threw Chase Young in there. And he talked about those guys getting a heavy workload today in terms of the trainers putting them through a little bit of a gauntlet to see how they would feel tomorrow. So that's going to be the key. If those guys come in extremely sore tomorrow, they'll be on the side field and they're not ready to practice yet. And that's not a good sign for Sunday. If those guys are out on the field stretching with their teammates on the main field, when the media is there, the media will tell us. We'll hear from Ben Standing, we'll hear from John Kahn, we'll hear from Nikki Javala and all of those guys and gals, and they'll let us know, who's out there on the main field, who's on the side field with the trainers, and we'll have an idea of what's going on. Chase Young, I think no matter what happens, how good he feels, how good he doesn't feel, sore, not sore, I think he's going to be on the side field regardless to start the week. But, it'll be a hell of a boost confidence-wise if he shows up and he's practicing, stretching with his teammates and ultimately practices, even if it's on a limited basis. We won't know this because he won't be listed on the injury report because, again, he's not activated. So they don't have to tell us anything, but they'll ask questions, especially if they see him out there. I think Jahan Dotson, Sam Cosmi was another name that was in that mix. Sam Cosmi, Jahan Dotson, and Logan Thomas. I'm still a little iffy on Sam Cosmi. I don't think he's going to play quite yet. I think he's one more week away. However, I think Logan Thomas and Jahan Dotson are going to play this week. So I'm looking forward to seeing if those guys can get back on the practice field on Wednesday. That'd be a big boost for this offense against the Green Bay Packers team that's reeling right now. And I think they're going to come out and they're going to try to play some of their best football because this is the first time the Packers have dealt with this type of noise. The Packers aren't used to dealing with early season drama. They usually don't lose their third game of the season until like week 12, week 13. Like this isn't what the Packers do. So they're being called soft. Their head coach is being challenged for the first time. They lost at home to the Jets. Yeah, this is going to be a crazy week for the Packers. And a lot of you have said they're going to take it out on us. There's a chance that could happen. I don't think they're taking out a damn thing, but I do think they're going to be laser-like focused coming into the game. And you're not going to catch them slipping like, oh, it's just Washington. No, they're going to hone in and they're going to look to kick some ass. I don't know if they're that team that's capable of doing that, though. But if there's a team that was ever out there that would allow you to get your shit together and get your rocks off, it's us. So I don't really trust us necessarily to say, hey, Green Bay, this ain't your year, and y'all are not the Packers of old. I don't trust us to keep that party going. But we'll see. So, that's something to keep an eye out on. Jahan Dotson, Sam Cosmi, Logan Thomas, and Chase Young. What's the status of those players? Specifically, the three guys in Dotson, Thomas, and Cosmi, because, again, with Chase Young, we really won't know. They'll tell us. And remember, Brian Robinson was the same way, and they're going to conduct him in the same manner that they did Brian Robinson, which is activate him over the weekend if he is, in fact, ready to go. We'll know. Because remember that week with Brian Robinson, they pretty much told us, hey, Brian's looked good. We feel really confident. And then they activated him Saturday and he played Sunday. We'll know. I still think we're one more week away. I've been saying week 9 against Minnesota. I think we're getting really close. Really, really close. It could be Indy on the road week 8. Wouldn't shock me. But I still don't think week 7 against Green Bay is the week for Chase Young. But he talked about William Jackson III. And they're going with this back narrative. So he's like, he's going to work with the trainer. And he's going to work with Al. And they're talking about his back. And they said, if he's healthy, is he going to play? And Ron's like, we'll see. He wants out. They want him out. And they're looking to trade him. I hope they get this thing done sooner rather than later. Like, you see what happened with the Panthers with Robbie Anderson. Had a blow up on the sidelines, was getting into it with the coaching staff. They moved his ass the very next day. I'm not sitting around playing with this shit. They got a 6 and a 7 for him, and they kept it pushing. I don't have time for this shit. Get what you can get. Get out of the William Jackson III business, and let's move forward, okay? We don't need this distraction hanging over our heads. You didn't get what you thought you were getting. He didn't get what he thought he was getting. It's a mutual parting of ways. Make it happen. Get some draft compensation for him, and let's get the hell out of the William Jackson III business. It didn't work. So we'll see what happens with that situation. It's easier said than done because there's the matter of, salary. Who's going to be on the hook for the rest of his salary this year and then what he's making next year. There's draft compensation. There's a lot of moving parts. There's health. Is his back really banged up? I'm not trading for a guy that isn't healthy. Robbie Anderson wasn't, going to the locker room due to an injury. He was going to the locker room due to frustration. Our guy is probably banged up a bit. So it's harder to trade a guy that may not even pass the other team's physical. So we'll see. But I know I'm done with him. I'd like to see them be done with him as well. Wash their hands clean, get what they can get, and move on. Because they clearly don't want to play him. Similar to the Rams and Cam Akers, looks like they're going to trade him. I think we're in the same spot with William Jackson III. Okay, so with that said, I got a couple announcements to make. First things first, giving away tickets to the Mob/Patreon supporters. If you're out there and you're interested in these tickets, Aaron Rodgers coming to town for maybe what will be his last time coming to FedEx Field. Who knows? These guys, we think they're going to retire. He might be here 6 years from now. And he may be coming back to FedEx next year. Who knows? We may finish in the exact same spot as the Packers in their division. And they may have to come back to Washington next year. But as of right now, we more likely than not won't see Aaron Rodgers again in FedEx Field. So here's an opportunity for you to see him up close and personal. If you are interested in having your name entered in the drawing for the tickets, simply use the hashtag Ultra. Okay, Ultra. And I will leave that hashtag in the comment section pinned at the top of this video. We will do the drawing on Thursday. Why are we doing it on Thursday, not Wednesday? Because it's time. The Super Friends are uniting on Wednesday night. You guys heard it first. Going to start promoting it on socials. It was a lot of juggling behind the scenes to get this going. Been working on this for a little while. Everybody's so busy. And yeah, when you're winning, your time becomes, a much to do, because you're being pulled in this direction, you're being pulled in that direction. Hey, I ain't got shit going on. We suck. So no one's calling me up trying to get me on their program. But when you're winning, everybody wants to get a piece of you. And so it was tough, but everybody's busy, but everybody was able to do it. So the Super Friends will unite on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Looking forward to chopping it up with the guys. It should be a lot of fun. But in the meantime, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Commanders Nightly News. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys tomorrow night. Y'all show up in full force and show out. I'm going to need it, okay? They're going to be at the kids' neck. I'm going to need y'all for moral support, okay? And everything that comes my way, I deserve it, okay? I can't run from it. I talked that talk. My team did not walk that walk. Now I got to walk the plank. Okay? So I'm prepared to take the walk of shame. I need y'all to be there to lift the kid up. Okay? Because my head is down right now. I need y'all to tell me, hey, chin up. Don't you ever look down. Chin up. I need y'all there for me, man. So y'all show up and show out for the kid. Anyway, I digress. I'll see you guys tomorrow night for the Super Friends stream, 8 p. here on the Louie T Network. You guys have a good one. God bless. Good night.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20. He's gone. He's gone. Touchdown, Washington.